Yes, is that fine? Are we there? Are we better? Are we good? Okay, perfect, fantastic. Thank you very much, guys. That's infuriating. As I was saying, the stream that I did earlier is now hidden on my channel and no one is able to see it because I had issues with the sound because it was coming through the wrong microphone. I changed the microphone that it was using as the input device, which is this one, which is the one that's normally very reliable and doesn't really do me wrong, and then it just didn't do any audio for the first 2 minutes of the stream. So that's fine and good and lovely, and I'll have to trim that afterwards. But yeah, I hope we're all doing very, very well. Welcome to the stream, because we need to discuss Leeds United facing Burnley in the Premier League. And before we get into all that, we're going to discuss the bit of news that I did cover earlier in the day. Just to check, by the way, am I sounding okay? I'll just double check that it's... Yes, okay, it is the right microphone. But we'll cover the bit of news that I did earlier in the day, but that stream has now disappeared because of audio problems. That Noah Okafor is unavailable for this match. Fabrizio Romano reported that he is going to be injured for 7 to 10 days, which is incredibly specific and also comes with some question marks, including who has told Fabrizio Romano this information, why has he got hold of it before the club have had the chance to say anything. It's probably come from a player in the club. Question is, who? And that's a big sort of question, because if you're Noah Okafor, you probably don't want to hurt your standing in your new club. If you are a winger that's potentially taking his place, maybe that could be a good thing to do, but also you don't want to disrupt the apple cart or anything. Very weird, and I think we might see a little bit of backlash from that specific chunk of the situation. Not having Noah Okafor, however, does have other negative impacts on Leeds United at the moment, which are obvious to see when I show you my expected starting lineup, which I'm going to do right now by heading over to here. So my predicted lineup for Leeds United for this fixture is as follows on the left-hand side. Starting with Caldalo, this one just sort of makes sense. He's the goalkeeper that's been doing well, and Daniel Farke has literally said himself that it will be Caldalo that is playing this match. That's not a question mark. Also not really question marks is the back line. Jayden Bogle is going to retain his place because Jayden Bogle is one of our best players so far this season. The same applies for Gabby Goodmanson at left back. Same for Joe Rodon. There's maybe a conversation to be had around Pascal Struijk, but I personally think he keeps his place, part of which is because A, we've got one of the better defences in the league right now for preventing chance creation, but B, part of the reason that Lucas Perry isn't being seen as available is the fact that he hasn't trained with the back line, so he's not super familiar with the way that they play at the minute. Same sort of applies for Beal, because Beal has been elsewhere for the past few weeks on international duty, which makes the whole Beal needs to start argument sort of fall apart a little bit. In front of that line, you've got to go with Ampadu, because Ampadu is the best defensive midfielder that we have as an option right now, with Longstaff and Stack alongside, because they're just quite good. There might be an argument for you drop one of them, you bring in Tanaka, but I don't necessarily think that that is especially feasible when Tanaka has just come from the other side of the world and is going to be very, 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 very jet-lagged. Then you get to the wings, and you get to Brendan Aronson, who I was hoping wouldn't need to start this match. In terms of his sort of performances recently, I think he's been pretty good. He does mainly the defensive side of the game excellently, and whilst his chance creation does need to improve, he's heading in that right direction. But then again, you've got the same issue as we had with Tanaka, in which you don't necessarily want him to be starting because, well, he's just crossed the entire world in order to play a little bit of football. So that jet lag is going to hit like a train. Then you come to the left wing, which isn't quite what we wanted to see. We were all thinking, right, Nonto might be back after the international break. Nope, he's got a hernia. Okafor will be available. Nope, something is wrong. I think it's an adductor, so it's a sort of groin thing. Still not wonderful. So it's going to have to be Jack Harrison, because we do not have the players for it to not be Jack Harrison, which is a little bit of a concern, but there is something of interest that I'll cover in a few minutes' time, linking up with Dominic Calvert-Lewin. Calvert-Lewin will start, in my opinion. I think he's the best number 9 that we've got at the club right now. And if you look beyond that, he makes the most sense on a sort of player-to-player basis, because if you've got Jack Harrison that's come into the side, Jack Harrison being someone that is a big fan of swinging the ball into the box and trying to put crosses in those dangerous areas for a centre-forward, you want Calvert-Lewin in there. Because what Calvert-Lewin tends to do is be that movement-y striker, the guy that goes from behind one centre-back to popping up in front of another to make him think, right, do I need to be marking this guy? Does he need to be marking this guy? Those mischievous little moves that make centre-backs actually think about what they're doing, cause problems, and hopefully leads to a pretty damn good result for Leeds United. So I think Harrison makes some sense in that regard. In terms of what we'll be up against, typically this season, you see Burnley play with 5 at the back. They've changed it up a little bit throughout the season as it's gone. So if I just quickly hop over to FBref, just to give you an idea of the sort of formations that they've been playing in, because it's the kind of thing that's quite hard to memorise. In their last match against Villa, they played a 5-4-1. Before that was against City in a 5-4-1. Before that was Cardiff with a 3-4-1-2, which is a bit of a variant on a 5-4-1, I guess. Then 2 5-4-1s. Then they played with like a 4-2-3-1 a couple of times. But for the most part, you can expect to see 5 at the back, which is a little bit of an issue. I'd remove Harrison, play Stack and Loft, and play Tanaka in the middle. Stack is not a winger, has never been a winger, and will never be a winger. Sly. I understand that you might not like Jack Harrison, and I'll be honest, on a personal level, I don't either right now. But there's not really any denying that in terms of fit wingers that we've got at the minute, it kind of has to be Jack Harrison. On that one, Jason, saying that you've got to blame the 49ers for letting Ramazani go out on loan and not replacing him, I half agree. I agree that not getting another winger in is the issue, because it absolutely is, without a doubt. But I don't think Ramazani would be the person that solves the problems anyway. Because if you have a look at what's been going on in La Liga at the minute, let's just get the specific numbers up, because I think this one's a pretty important one to cover, because otherwise the question's going to keep being asked. Ramazani has played 5 games of football at Valencia, and it's totaled 90 minutes. Now, people will point to the fact that he's got an assist. That was a fairly simple square it across goal. It's not a clever cross or anything. It's not a delicious little through ball to a centre-forward. He squared it when the other forward was effectively one-on-one. It doesn't scream the best there is, the best there was, the best there ever will be. And it's just sort of okay. And I think if you are just sort of okay at Valencia, you're not going to get into a side at Premier League level. And if Ramazani wanted to be playing more football, it wasn't going to be at Leeds United, in my opinion. Even though I was pretty confident we'd get points from the next 2, but with the injury list on, significantly less so. Kind of in the same boat, but there's a little point of disagreement, because if I once again hop over to monitor 2, what makes me a little bit more confident about this is the way that we're getting better at creating chances, and admittedly, yes, that was with Okafor in the side, but Aronson is also improving in that regard because he's building that chemistry with Calvert-Lewin. Harrison has that chemistry with Calvert-Lewin, which is something that is quite good to have. Harrison is someone that doesn't necessarily do the bombing onto the byline. Goodmanson can go around the outside, so that sort of works systemically. Aronson also cuts in a little bit. Bogle bombs down the outside, so you've got the same sort of profiles in the attacking areas. So I still think we're going to be doing attacking in the same sort of format. In addition to that, you've got the rate at which Burnley concede chances, which is deliciously high. So I'm going to hop over to the Premier League, and I'm going to look at squad shooting, opponent stats. Shots taken against each and every team in the Premier League so far this season, per 90. Leeds United have conceded 10.6 shots per 90, which genuinely not that bad. It's only 2 more than Arsenal. It's less than 2 more than Newcastle concede every 90 minutes. 10.6. Pretty decent. Better defence than Chelsea, than Villa, than Spurs. Very nice. Then you look at Burnley. Burnley concede what we do, plus what Arsenal do in terms of shots every 90 minutes. 18.4. And in terms of shots on target conceded per 90, 5.4, which is very high. Which shows that they're a team that is fairly easily exposed, relatively easily pulled apart, and the best part is West Ham are up there in those stats too. West Ham have the second most shots against so far this season, and the third highest shots on target against per 90 this season. Both of the teams that are coming up are fairly easily beatable. And yeah, that's fair. Burnley have had difficult fixtures so far. Let's have a quick double check of what they specifically are, just so I've got it right. Because, again, I don't want to mislead or anything. But it's Spurs, Sunderland, Man United, Liverpool, Forest, City, Villa. Villa, not looking too great this season, let's be completely fair. Forest, looking horrible. But fair enough. City, bad. Liverpool, bad. Man United, depends on their week. But Sunderland, bad. Spurs, it's not great. Difficult fixtures, but to be fair, we have equally had fairly difficult fixtures so far this season, and we haven't been in that position of 18 shots per 90. Like, I think you could probably break it down game by game and just see, we'll say that, which is going to be the most sort of standard Premier League of those matches. I'm going to go with the Villa one because I think they're most mid-table at the moment. And Villa had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Villa had 15 shots against Burnley, which is quite a lot when you have a look at the fact that Villa are one of the teams that they'd be looking at right now and go, probably need something out of those if they're going to stay down there in the Premier League. Was Okafor on international duty? He was not. Okafor stayed at Thorpe Arch, just sort of hanging out, being a chill dude, because he has had the odd spat with his international manager in the past, which isn't really what you want to have. That sort of instability between him and the international coach is a pretty big problem for him, and he's trying to desperately work his way back into that national team, and it's not going to work if he's going to be injured from time to time. But we hope that said injury is not going to be indicative of something bigger, because someone popped into my comments on the original version of this stream, because I've had to re-record it because, well, not record it, but you know what I mean. Because the original one, the audio went very, very, very janky and was like, typical Underwood failure. And it's like, he's had one injury. And we're just going to, what? So Farker-induced injury. I mean, not necessarily. It could be the fact that he just tweaks something. Like, that happens sometimes. Occasionally players get knocks, they get tweaks. They will run and a stud will get caught in the ground a little bit hard. And they won't be able to sort of, like, go with it. It can be that kind of simple thing. It doesn't have to be some big sort of, oh no, we got a systemic issue behind the scenes, which a lot of people seem to sort of lean towards, and I don't think that's realistically the case. That's not where I'm feeling on it. In terms of stylistically between the two teams, however, because we should probably also cover that bit, Leeds United, as a side this season, are a side that, if we have a very, very quick look at match per match, have been sort of varying on possession. So for most of our games so far this season, we've had a little bit less than half of the ball. Against Everton, 54%, Arsenal 33%, because Arsenal, but then Newcastle 43%, 46% for Fulham, 44% for Wolves, 41% for Bournemouth, 56% for Spurs. Hovering in that 45 to 50 sort of range for the majority. On the other hand, and this is why I think this is going to be a sort of game where we just dominate the ball, Burnley have had more than 50% of possession once this season so far, and that is including 2 League Cup games. They have had more than half of the ball against Derby County. Against Spurs, they were at 34%. Against Sunderland, 42%. Against Scum, 38%. They had 20% of the ball against Liverpool. 37% against Forest. They had less than half of the possession against Cardiff City in a Carabao Cup loss. Against Man City, 32% and 46% against Villa. That is concerning on their end, to say the least. But it's pretty good for us, because it says that whilst it's not going to be a carbon copy of last season, and yeah, they might not necessarily play with that 5 at the back that I'm expecting, there is going to be plenty of opportunity for Leeds United here to cause them some pretty significant problems, almost exclusively by just weighing men in on them. Because if we're able to do that, and we're able to just sort of go in hard and try and cause them as many issues as we can, brilliant. Keep the tempo high, and they won't necessarily be able to match it, because whilst we look at last season and we say that Burnley had one of the best defences in the league, it conceded more chances than ours did and relied quite heavily on James Trafford, but it was a very, very good defence. They've lost half of that defence, and they've lost James Trafford, and their current goalkeeper isn't really setting the world on fire. So if I have a look at Burnley's expected goal stats, their goalkeeping is a little bit better than average. It's not fantastic. So on what Paul has said here, saying that we need to be clinical and make our chances count, I agree that being clinical would be very, very nice for this match. But I don't think it's a case of be clinical and make the chances count. I think it's a case of generate as many chances as we can, because we know that this is a team that can be gotten at. We know that if we put as much pressure as we can on this Burnley team, they will crumble and they will fold, and that'll be fantastic. We'll be able to walk in, ideally score plenty of goals, and then walk out again. But that's where the concern of the wingers comes in. That's where is Harrison able to do so comes in. That's where, okay, what can Brendan Aronson actually do at the moment comes in. And you've got all those questions around, are we able to generate what we need in order to make this match count? And I very much hope so. I think we've got it in our locker, and I think we will potentially win this match. I'm going to go with a 2-0, but I would hope a little bit more comfortably than that. But it does bring up that recruitment question that everyone had the moment the window ended, which was, if we don't get many injuries this season, this is a genius move. And then we hit the many injuries almost immediately. And you got to think, well, why didn't we just get one more? Which is not great, but it's something that I think needs to be watched and fixed, ideally very, very soon. Against a low block. You say this as if we weren't effectively against a low block for the majority of last season. So, having a look at Leeds' stats from last season specifically. So, if we go back from our final match of the season, based on the amount of possession that we've got, we had 76% against Plymouth, against a low block, we won. 74% against Bristol, who dropped into a low block, and we won. 67% against Stoke, who dropped into a low block, and we won. Same for Oxford, same for Preston. It happened consistently throughout last season, and because it didn't work a few times, everyone sort of swings through and goes, yeah, well, we're done because 2 or 3 times we didn't break down a low block. We always forget the many, 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 many times we did. We beat Cardiff 7-0, for God's sake, with an XG of 5.7. Like, at points, we need to acknowledge that maybe we deserve the really, really good results that we get. And we need to sort of back ourselves a little bit more, because, yeah, Burnley might play against a bit of a low block. However, they will also know that this is where they need to pick up some points. Looking throughout the Premier League, they'll know that, well, they can't just draw their way to a survival. You can't just low block your way into getting out of the getting out of the relegation zone, especially when they've done that already. And it's not worked. That was a fun little hiccup. So I think play our game. Play our game our way, and we will cause them enough problems to just sort of break them. Because they will have to come at us a little bit, and it's the transitional stuff that we absolutely thrive in, to be fair. Feeling positive, Joe. I will go 2-1 win for Leeds. These 4 matches coming up need as many points as possible. We do. I would normally sort of fly on in and give a prediction for number of points from these 4 games. They drew their way to promotion. They didn't draw their way to promotion. if we have a look at that championship table. They did have a lot of draws. I'm not going to deny that. They had 16 draws. But at the same time, we had 13 draws. And they also had 28 wins. So they did win a hell of a lot of games of football. They won one game less than we did. So when you're sort of categorising it as drawing their way to promotion, it feels like a slightly unfair characterisation of the way that they did it. We need 4 chances to score 1 goal. That's sort of how it works. Like, we can say that, but let's have a look at our expected goals this season. Expected goals currently 7.6. Goals for, 7. We're not that far behind where we should be in terms of what we're creating. In terms of what we're creating, we're not creating that badly. We're sort of mid-table in terms of creativity for the teams. So again, when I'm sort of noting that, like, we seem to be overly critical of ourselves because that's just what we do as Leeds fans, this is one of those examples. Because in this case, you can say we need 4 chances to score 1 goal. Yeah, that's normal. That's the usual. Everyone does that. Very few teams just vastly outperform their XG. So, having a quick look at goals scored in the league so far, no one is vastly outperforming it. Man City by 3, Arsenal by 2, Liverpool by 2, Chelsea by 2. Somehow Spurs are doing it by like 5, which is incredible. But other than that, everyone is sort of on XG. So the fact that we're not like massively overperforming at the minute isn't something to be like spooked about, because we're just being where we need to be. And if all the underlying stuff is doing better and we're sticking on the same level as the underlying stuff, then that's alright for me. When we play on the front foot and at pace, we're a handful for most teams we play. They're the home teams, so they'll have to come and play at some stage. Yeah. Where we ultimately do better than anyone else is when both of the teams on a football pitch come out swinging, and they come out thinking, yeah, we can win this game. Because at that point, we've got more space to play into. We've got space for Aronson to make those runs behind into, for Bogle to just find a gap, overlap, get that ball, and then whip a delicious ball into Calvert-Lewin. I think this match is not perfect for us, because that would be a little bit of a stretch, but it's a very, very, very nicely formed game of football for us at the minute. It's looking nice and healthy, and I think there's very few ways that this could be set that would be less good for us. And I think I'm going to say we get 3 points tomorrow. I'm going to say against West Ham, we get 3 points. I'm feeling confident on that one. I've got to be completely honest with you. By that point, Dan James probably back fully fit and healthy. After that is Brighton. That's a scary one. We've got to be completely honest here. There'll be some people that'll like, yeah, I need to get something against Brighton. You're not going to get anything against Brighton. They're a very, very decent side. Following that is Forest. Assuming that Ange is still at Forest at that point, which is a very, very big question mark, then we'll do pretty damn well. But if he isn't, then that becomes a little bit more of a question. We can hold our own in this league with the new lad. We can hold our own in this league. The new lads have bonded well with our established lads. There's a positive vibe around the dressing room, and Ellen Road bodes well for our up-and-coming battles. It does, however. Of our next 4 battles, 3 of them are elsewhere. So that's the scary bit. But I think we will be fine enough, and that's what I'm going to roll with. Anyway, what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring the stream to a close there. It's going to be a fairly quick one. I might do something in the morning, just have a little bit of a pre-match chatty kind of vibe. I think that could be quite fun. And then I am working for the majority of tomorrow and the majority of Sunday, so I don't know what I'll be able to do in terms of post-match bits, but I'll do what I can. With all that in mind, I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please subscribe if you're not yet. That's always massively appreciated. Become a channel member if you fancy. It's $2.99 a month. You get a bunch of videos and stuff early. That's lovely. Including something special that is in the pipeline that I will get to at some point. And just also like comment and stuff. It's just lovely. YouTube is being a little bit of a dick to channels like mine at the minute, which is a bit of a shame. But keep on pushing through and hope that eventually it all starts to sort of add up in the right direction, and we'll see. Hope you all enjoyed, and I will see you later. Toodaloo.